Okay, so I've done some tool paths, and so what we're going to do is we're going to run this in simulation in our Benchmill 6100. So first thing I want to do when we're going to run the mill is I'm going to go ahead and set up my tools. So I'm just going to go to my tool library, setup library. My first tool is going to be a 3/8 inch flat, 0.375 for my diameter. My height is 0. Diameter offset is 0. That's going to be station number 1. Apply that. Tool number 2, 1/4 inch flat. That's going to be station number 2. Type is end mill. Height offset is 0. And we'll apply that. Tool number 3, 1/8 inch ball. 1/8 inch diameter. Height offset is 0. Type is ball mill. Apply that. Tool number 4. We'll leave it alone. Tool number 5. Actually, tool number 4. We're going to set to be a tapered end mill. This will be our 1/4 inch chamfer. Outer diameter is 0.25. Height is 0. Taper angle is 45. Diameter is 0.01. Apply that. That's going to be station number 4. Tool number 5 we're going to set to undefined. Okay, so tool number 1, station number 1, 3/8 flat. Tool number 2, station number 2, 1/4 inch flat. Tool number 3, station number 3, 1/8 inch ball. Tool number 4, station number 4, 1/4 inch chamfer. Say OK. And if we zoom in on this a little bit, we'll see that our tools have actually changed. To match that. Tool number 4 is being weird. Okay, so we're going to configure the ATC. Tool number 1 is station number 1. Tool number 2. Station number 2 is tool number 2. Station number 3 is tool number 3. Station number 4, we're going to put tool number 4 in it. Okay. And if we look there, we see we've got a chamfer mill. So we see we've got the right tools in each of these pockets, which is perfect. Right. If you haven't set up the simulation, if you haven't set up the simulator yet, I'm going to do a couple of things to show you how to set up the simulator. Okay. So first up, you have to operate the simulator just like you operate the actual machine. So before I can do anything, I have to close the door. Okay? That was the error I was getting, so close the door. Next, you have to home the machine. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and home. And it moves at about the same rate the machine does. So operating the machine is very, very close. Operating the machine in simulation is very close to operating the actual machine. There are a couple of small differences, mainly related to setting up tools. Okay? Now, if you haven't run the machine in simulation before, one of the things that it does not know where the tool pockets are. Okay? So we're going to tell it where the tool pockets are. We're going to send tool, or send the machine to ATC1. And then for tools, initialize station location, station 1. And then yes. And you can do this for each of the stations. I've already done this, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But if you haven't done this, you need to do this before you can use the tool changer. All right. I'm going to send the machine. Actually, we'll just home the machine again, just to get it off of there. Okay, next thing we want to do, our part is about 3 inches by 4.5 inches by 0.7 inches, and we're located at the top center for our 0. So I want to fix my verify up, and I want to fix my verify up, and I want to fix my stock up. So I'm going to go here to verify and click on verify settings, stock, and for my length on X, I'm going to set this to 4.54. Or for my length on X, my width on Y is going to be 3.04. My height would actually be 0.72, but I actually need to give myself a little bit of room for the vise to grab onto it. So I'm going to set it to 1 inch for the height, and leave our spacer at 1 inch. And for our origin on the x-axis, x is going to be half of this, so 4.54. And I could take off my shoes and calculate this, but I'm actually just going to go get the calculator out. 4.54 divided by 2 gets me 2.27. So minus 2.27 for y, minus 1.52 for z and 0. And that puts us right in the center there. Initial tool positions, X, Y, and Z, 0. Select OK. And that not only fixes my verify, it also fixes my Benchmill. See, so now I've got my stock located there. And the spacer is, we'll see how this cuts. The spacer might need to be a little taller. Looks like I don't have very much distance there. So let's go back to the verify. Let's set my spacer 1.25. Huh. Well, let me set a spacer higher than 1 inch, which is kind of annoying. We'll set my stock to 1.25. Okay. I just want to make sure the tool's not going to cut the vise. On the actual machine, I'd use a thicker spacer to bring it up higher in the vise. Okay. Next up is loading my NC code, and let me just pop. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to load our file here. So I'm going to open the file I posted from Fusion. Doesn't really matter which one I do, but load the one I've loaded from Fusion. And I need to, before I go too far, I need to set up the machine. So let's go to my preparation screen. And I can change the different screens by just picking the ones here, graphics screen and so forth. For the preparation screen, so I need to jog. What I need to do is I need to pick up the tool. I need to touch off my part. So I'm going to insert tool number 1, And it's complaining about the drawbar. Okay, so I just needed to toggle the door, which allowed me to toggle the drawbar. So we will pick up tool number 1 from station number 1, and you set my 0. So my 0 is going to be the top center for the part. So I'm going to jog over and down. Now on the machine, I would need to set different. Lengths for the tools. Here, because we're using virtual tools, the tools don't actually have any length. We're not going to go through. And set the tool lengths. We're using the simulated tools are all the same length. On the actual machine, I would have to do this differently. The other thing that happens on the simulated machine is that the simulation knows when I've hit something, so I don't need to use a piece of paper or anything. I just keep coming down until it hits. It'll back off a little bit, and I want to tap down at the lowest speed. Okay, so I want to tap down at the lowest speed, lowest increment. Okay. Until it impacts, and then I'm going to set axis to 0. It's Z that I'm working with. Offset's 0 there, so we'll select OK. That sets my Z to 0. Very important to do this with the tool loaded. Sets my Z coordinate to 0. Now I'm going to jog continuous over to the side. Come down a little bit. I'm going to come over this way until it hits. Back off a little, and then step over at the smallest possible value. Until it touches. And I'm going to set an axis to 0. I'm going to set X to 0. That's what it looks like. Now I want to find the center, and that's not the center, but that gets me an edge. So I'm going to select OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continuous jog up. I'm going to come over. I'm actually going to go to the X position that I had from verify. So I know this is 4.54, and I know that half of that, so 4.54, and half of that is 2.27. So for X, I'm going to go to 2.27, which is exactly in the center of the part. And I'm going to set axis to 0, X right in the center there, select OK. There's my X0. I'm going to do the same thing on Y. Now, if I was doing this on the actual machine, I'd either measure the block and then move by half the distance of the block, or I could measure the front, or I could touch off to the front, touch off to the back, and then divide the distance. But because I'm doing virtual machines, I'm going to take some shortcuts here. So So I'm just going to come forward and then down. And we're going to go back. Until it touches. Come back this way a little bit, and then just tap it over, smallest, lowest speed, smallest increment until it touches. Again, set axis to 0. It's the y-axis. It's the front that I was working with there. So select OK. Now we're going to bring it up. And we're going to right-click, go to, for our y value. We know this was 3.04. So 3.04 divided by 2 gets us 1.52. 1.52 is our distance there. Go rapid. And set axis to 0, y, centered. There we go. Okay, so now if I go to x0 and y0 and z.5 at the rapid rate, there we are. Right at the center. So at this point, this file is ready to run. So let's go to our Run and Edit screen and Start. And see our run settings. We'll select OK there. We'll run program. So this should go, and there we are running the program. And I'm going to go ahead and my feed override up to maximum. And that is essentially operating the machine. I'm going to pause this because otherwise we're just watching the machine do a thing, and we'll come back in a minute after it's made some more progress. Here we are partway through the first pass of the pocket operation. I'm going to change this to the graphics screen so you can see more clearly what the machine's doing. A little further along, finished our first depth pass. Looks like we're starting our second depth pass. So the pocket's sorted, and looks like we are engraving now. Here's our chamfering operation. And the end of the toolpath. Zoom in a little bit on here. It's a little hard to see because the hard to see, but you can see the engrave is in there, as well as the chamfering and the rounding around the outside. it did miss the vise. If we were cutting this on the actual machine, we would use a larger spacer and a smaller block. So we'd clamp on the edge of the block, and then at the end of that, we'd flip it over and face off the bottom. You could also do an additional operation that would put a chamfer on the bottom. That'd be a more advanced toolpath. But this is the basic project. While we're here, let's also look at the run and edit, and on the verify window shows a little more clearly what we were looking at. And it didn't show the chamfer, but it did show the engrave, so it shows a little more clearly what we're seeing. And that's it.